The National Hot Rod Association is famous for lightning-fast side-by-side competition. Whisper-close finishes on perfectly groomed concrete and macadam surfaces. Maybe before this day is over, we'll see some of that. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Evans, and welcome to our coverage of the Goody's Mid-South Nationals here at Memphis Motorsports Park. Now, the combination of a little bit of wind, periods of wet, followed by periods of dry, followed by periods of wet, and a boatload of bad karma. Round one, held earlier today, well, it was pretty extraordinary. When the gloves came off down here at the far end, there was quite a few white knuckles. Here's three examples of what I'm talking about. First, it was Jimmy Nix breaking on the burnout, allowing Winston points leader Kenny Bernstein a bye. But a lane full of tire smoke got crew chief Dale Armstrong scratching his head. Then it was number 2 qualifier Don Verdome against Robert Reel, performing the same spectacular wheel spinning trick as he had to feather the pedal all the way down the track. But it was Frank Hawley with the biggest problems of all. A tire explosion right at the finish line forced the driving school professor to re-earn his reputation as one of the best drivers in the business. Just as the car crossed the finish line, something cut down the right rear tire at full speed, causing a violent explosion that not only shredded the tire, but took out part of the rear wing. The second replay shows that Frank Hawley had to have the reactions of a cat to keep the car from getting into Frank Bradley or it turning over. A masterful job of driving. But the Gwin crew had to work at double speed between rounds to replace the rear wing, do the customary maintenance, and perform complex repairs to the front wing. Word is, though, the car is ready for round 2 action against Don Verdome just a few minutes from right now. And the strangeness didn't end there. Right, Brock Yates?
Well, Steve, we had a couple of major upsets in the first round of funny cars. The first came in the hands of this man, the veteran Tom Hoover from Minneapolis, when he knocked off the low qualifier Mark Oswald after Oswald blazed his tires. Oswald came in as the #1 qualifier with a great 5.25 second elapsed time. But as we saw in Top Fuel earlier, the In-N-Out Burger team just simply overpowered the track.
Sometimes it's hard when your car's running hard to back up a little bit. We tried to, but racetrack didn't seem to be what it was yesterday. You know, you just can't get too carried away. Tom's a very tough car. You know, if we got too conservative, he'd just jump up there and whip us anyway.
Then in an even greater upset, it was Jerry Caminito eliminating points leader John Force. Caminito had a great starting line reaction time and beat Force with a lower ET.
Nobody could be any happier than we are because we try so hard, really. And to go around Force on a light, that's the only way I know I could have done it. And I had my wholehearted, and I was really concentrating it. And thanks for the support from all my friends and the fans.
Strange day, but we're happy. We've been plagued with this blower problem, and we finally put a new blower on it, and it got through the burnout, and it made a run to the other end. And we're excited. Schultz, he fell out there. The Oswald did in the point steal, so nobody can hurt us here today. And just somebody else won a race.
So much for the craziness here at Memphis. Now let's go over to our broadcast partner, Big Daddy Don Garlitz, for more on the Pro Stock competition.
Well, Brock, the story in Pro Stock is starting to sound like a broken record. Darrell Alderman came to this race, was not qualified until the final session, then lays down low ET of the meet, a 730, moves right to the head of the class, comes back in round 1 against Butch Leo, another low ET, 729, and advances to the second round. Who can beat that dodge? Well, Brock, I'll answer that question myself. It could be one of these two blue cars, both of them in the Warren Johnson stable. Scott Jeffrey-On or Warren Johnson's car. Now, Jeffrey-On qualified #2 with a 731, and Warren Johnson a 732 for the #3 spot. Very closely matched. Now, they are on the same side of the ladder. That means that they could meet in the Final Four. So the question is, who would win such a confrontation? Would it be Warren Johnson or Scott Jeffrey-On? You figure it out.
Well, we'll know before this day is over, Big Daddy. All right, it is time for action in round number 2 of Top Fuel. There is the repaired front end on the Darrell Gwynn-owned Frank Hawley-driven Coors Light Special. They'll be up against Don Prudhomme. Don Gullis, let me ask you, it's only been a short time since that tire explosion, that crazy job of driving Frank Hawley had to do. Can he put that out of his mind to meet the snake here?
Absolutely not, Steve. He's got to be thinking about that thing. You saw how the car swerved out the end. It got into Bradley's lane. It's got to be on his mind.
And when the car drops down that hard on a bare wheel, you have to wonder if the frame is in alignment.
Yeah, it's a rear-engine car. He doesn't know what has happened in the back. He doesn't know whether Frank Bradley has run into him or the back end is coming off the car. You have no idea till you stop and get out of the car.
All right, so maybe a bit of a question mark for the car in the far lane. Well, a question mark for Don Prudhomme. We saw in replay him smoking the tires all the way down the racetrack, on and off the pedal, maybe 5 times. A wonder he didn't blow that motor to the moon.
Yeah, he had a good fuel system, I'll say that. I kept waiting every time the smoke appeared. The next shot would be the flash under the blower.
Well, the weather has been so, well, let's say unpredictable throughout this entire event. Every morning you come out here expecting the event to be canceled, and the sun had come out enough to get qualifying in, and now apparently racing action. You can see kind of some pretty skies now.
The NHRA has certainly burned up a lot of jet fuel drying this track.
Frank Hawley, Gainesville, Florida, qualified number 7 at a 5:06. He dispatched Frank Bradley in round number 1. Don Prudhomme, Granada Hills, California, qualified number 2 at a 5:02. He beat Robert Reel in round number 1. Each year, Don Prudhomme visits the Madonna Day School for developmentally disadvantaged children in Memphis.
Good seeing you again.
His selfless efforts are appreciated by the staff and children alike. Fundraising is very important to the success of the school. Don and his fellow racers also host a barbecue to raise money for the school. And it's not just the children that have fun. Fans, parents, and drivers alike appreciate Don Prudhomme's commitment to such a worthy cause. If you're a snake fan and would like to participate in his favorite charity, here's a Memphis address to which you can send a donation. Big or small, it'll be appreciated. And right now in the grandstands, the sisters of the Madonna Day School and a lot of the kids have their fingers crossed for their idol, Don Prudhomme.
Well, I don't know about Holly, but if I was him, my fingers would be crossed whether they got that car put together right or not, because there was a tremendous amount of damage after that tire explosion.
Both were pre-staged. The final staging process. At the flash of yellow, they'll be gone. Prudhomme, the last to stage. Beautiful start. Whoa! Now there is the whisker close finish we've been looking for. Don Prudhomme at a 5.08 defeats Frank Hawley's quicker 5.06.
As we watch the replay, we see Frank Hawley just momentarily falter on the starting line. Prudhomme takes a beautiful start and holds on to an ever so slight win as they come down the track. Hawley ran strong, 5.06.280, but he couldn't catch Prudhomme.
Don, some inspired driving, my friend. You won that on a hole shot. Your 08 beat his 06.
Well, the car's been, John Mellon's been doing an awfully good job on setting the car up so it leaves real quick, you know, and I've just been trying, you know, man, at my age, it's a little tough.
Our age.
Yeah.
You had confidence in the lane that in the first round, a lot of people smoked the tires. Obviously, John did too. A lot of power up there.
Well, I didn't have a lot of confidence in anything, to be honest with you. I was just trying to do my job at the start line. What comes up, you know. It's just, this will give us a good baseline for the next round.
This has been a bizarre race so far. Maybe it's straightening itself out finally.
Well, I think so. You know, some of the guys were just set up good for the first round, some weren't. You know, it's just like how you hit the car, you know, the track Sunday morning.
And for the final 4, the snake.
Well, Don Prudhomme's new crew chief, John Medlin, has put him into 2 finals so far this year, so I think he's got a good man there. Back in Tom Hoover's pit, the crew are working hard to get his car ready for Dale Worsham in Funny Car Round 2 a little bit later.
More top fuel action coming your way from the Goody's Mid-South Nationals here at Memphis Motorsports Park. I'm Steve Evans along with Big Daddy Don Garlitz and Brock Yates, and we have got a excellent pair of top fuel directions to go head-to-head. Joe Amato, his Valvoline special, and he will be up against the bright yellow car. There you see it of Eddie Hill, the Super Shops Pennzoil machine. That's the original car that Hill ran in the Fords with several seasons back. He's reactivated it. Was low qualifier at the Gator Nationals, the previous race to this, but it was Amato who won the Gators. There we see Ursi Hill backing her husband into the tracks. It's so very, very important.
Steve, I can understand that feeling that the Hills have for that car. I have had several cars like that. I put them in the museum. I'd get them out, reactivate them, win races with them. And I tell you, I hated to turn them loose. They just became like an old shoe, so comfortable.
Well, there's nothing old about that car. We just saw Jerry Amato backing up. That's her husband, Joe, the current Winston champion for the 3rd time, followed by #1 here at 5 flat, beat Tommy Johnson Jr. in round #1. Eddie Hill did not have a splendid qualifying effort. Middle of the pack, followed by #9, really, 5:08. Beat Gene Snow in round #1. Eddie Hill has been an unknown quantity all season. He'll go out and set low ET, or he'll smoke the tires. You just don't know.
Look at the Christmas tree, Steve. Eddie Hill is deep stage. That'll put him a couple of inches closer to the finish line.
Ah, but it's all for naught. Overpowers that near lane. Jerry Amato cheers her husband Joe to a 5:05. Probably about what they thought that car would run at 276 miles per hour. Let's go to Brock Yates, who's with crew chief Tim Richards at the starting line.
Well, Tim, what do you think? Is it going to do it?
Yeah, that 05 will take at this part of the day. We had a dead cylinder on the right side, I think. We had an exhaust valve go out of it, but we'll take the 05.
All right.
05 with a dead cylinder. Has that Amato got some power or what? Here we see Lori Johns getting ready for her 2nd round confrontation with Kenny Bernstein. Lori Johns, the defending champion here, has not won a race since this event last year. It caused a little bit of conflict between the crew and the family, so she's looking to have a good day. And so far she is. Kenny Bernstein, on the other hand, spent the entire last year winless. But in 1991, he won 3 races. That makes him the current points leader. Dale Armstrong has been doing a tremendous job on that car. Meanwhile, let's go down to the far end with Steve.
You know, the most used adjective to describe Joe Amato racing is consistency. Another run, that's 5 in the 5.0s, this time a 5.05.
Well, Steve, you know, with the weather like it is in the track conditions, we're just trying to get down the track and get the wind light.
The more racing, the better the track seems to get today.
Well, the sun's out and it's getting a little hotter, though, too. You know, the rubber that was there and then the rain, the rubber got soft and it was balling up. And you saw all the funny cars and everybody out there smoking the tires. You know, we're just treading on eggs. The computer really looked scary last run, so, you know, it always makes us nervous.
See you soon.
Thank you.
A lot of credit's got to be given to these crew chiefs like Tim Richards, who are able to figure out how to make these cars get down this track with conditions like they are. The humidity changes from run to run. The sun comes out. It just brings the water right out of the pavement. The engine runs different. The track is different. It's a very, very touchy situation.
And you can see the intensity in the face of Kenny Bernstein's crew chief, Dale Armstrong. Kenny from Dallas, Texas, qualified #4, beat Jimmy Nixon round #1. Now, Lori Johns, Corpus Christi, Texas, the last time she met up with Kenny Bernstein was 2 races ago, a special event called the Winston Invitational, and Bernstein red-lighted against Lori Johns. He won't make that mistake again, I don't think. Nope, Kenny Bernstein, green light. Oh, Kenny Bernstein loses traction, and it's enough. Lori Johns at 5:13, 273 miles per hour. Bernstein coasts across the finish line at a 5:47.
Well, Lori Johns' crew certainly softened that car up too much, and I'll tell you, they're living dangerously. 5:13, they were very vulnerable to Bernstein outrunning them and putting them out of the race.
Coming up next, a pair of past Winston champions who both desperately need a win. Gary Ormsby more for the morale of the team, and Dick LaHaye for his racing budget, and he is running unsponsored.
So they're going to be 2 very evenly matched cars. Dick LaHaye is running very good today, and of course we know that Ormsby has lots of power and lots of potential, but he comes into this round with a definite disadvantage. He did not get to make a full power run in round 1 because of a starting line problem. So he doesn't have lane choice. He doesn't have a tune-up run. This is going to be a cold turkey first round shot. Steve?
I just knew I was going to win that one.
You just knew you were going to win that one. How did you just know that?
Because I told myself I was before we ever went up the start line.
The power of positive thinking?
That's right. I just knew it. I wasn't even nervous. I thought, I know we can do it.
Well, what did you think it was going to run then?
I wasn't sure. What did we run?
5:13.
Really? What happened?
Don't ask me.
What did he run?
He smoked the tires.
Oh, great. That's great. Well, we'll be back next round. We'll try to run another O.
Well, the guy will be down there in a minute that she can ask what went wrong.
That's right, and his name is Larry Meyer, crew chief. That man's name is Lee Beard, and not much has gone right. They qualified #6 at a 5:06, which is very slow for the Ormsby car. And Beard now, as you said, Don, kind of going in blind here. No tune-up run in round 1, no lane choice. Gary Ormsby, a car dealer from Roseville, California, was the Winston champion in 1989. And his opponent knows what that honor feels like. Dick LaHaye, Lansing, Michigan, with his crew chief daughter Kim. They were the Winston champs in 1987.
Well, I would hate to be Gary Ormsby right now. It's just like having to have 2 first rounds in the same day. And I'll tell you, I hated first rounds.
I think every driver does, Don. That's when the butterflies are still there. And also, LaHaye loves this kind of a racetrack. The real perfect tracks he doesn't win on. Give him anything that takes a lot of experience and a kind of a cunning, and Dick LaHaye will beat you. Ormsby and LaHaye set to go. Round 2 action, top fuel. The Mid-South Nationals. A pop out of LaHaye's car. Something mechanically went wrong. Gary Ormsby gets a break there as his car only musters a 552 through the tire smoke at 272 miles per hour. Ormsby dodged a bit of a bullet, but he got that important tune-up run. Some computer information to work with. Let's go to Brock Yates with Lee Beard at the start.
Well, Lee, that lane's not showing anybody much.
No, it's not. You know, we didn't get to make a run there first round because we had a little problem with the starting system and the other guy leaving early. So we kind of came up here cold turkey, and we knew the lane wasn't going to be very good, but we actually had it fairly soft, and it still didn't hold, you know. Lane choice is definitely a serious thing to have today.
Yeah, I'm afraid that a 52 probably isn't going to help a lot.
No, it's not, but we did get to make a run, and hopefully I can take that data and turn it into something useful for the next round.
If anybody can, we know you can.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Lee.
Okay, that sets up the final 4. It looks like this. Don Perdome versus Gary Ormsby. Perdome has the lane choice, 508 to that 552. The other half shows Joe Amato with lane choice over Lori Johns. He'll tell her where to stage her car. That 505 versus a 513. Stay with us. We'll have more from Memphis.
Even with very poor weather this weekend, a tremendous crowd has shown up for the Goody's Mid-South Nationals. Meanwhile, Steve is over in Don Perdome's pit with a very special guest.
Don Perdome's involvement with the kids of Madonna didn't end the other night at the barbecue, even though they had raised some $10,000. A lot of the kids have been hanging around the pits there with their parents, and one, Danny Shelby, has become part of the crew. You're doing a great job, the Snake says.
Yeah, I sure am. Well, yesterday at the drag races, I was helping Don Perdome to pack the parachute back up.
You know, that's a very important job. His safety is in that parachute.
Yeah, it sure is.
Now, I'm told by the sisters of Madonna that you are definitely his #1 fan. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay, well, keep up the good work, huh?
Yeah, I will.
Maybe we'll see you in the winner's circle a little bit later today.
Okay.
All right, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Great kids.
It's a wonderful thing Don is doing, taking time from his busy schedule to help these kids. We all appreciate it.
And here in the near lane is practically a kid himself. 21-year-old Dale Worship, who's only been racing funny cars since February of this year. Never drove any other kind of race car in his life, not anything, not even a stock eliminator car, and he won the last race on the Winston Series, the Southern Nationals at Atlanta Dragway, and that's his father, Chuck Worship, backing him up. Chuck is really the mechanical brains behind the car, but it's a kid that does all the hard tasks during the week.
And Steve, over in the other lane is another kid that drives for his dad, Tom Hoover, only he's 49 years old, and the dad is 85. And they're just out there getting it.
Well, they barely got it here, though. They qualified in the 16th spot. We saw him beat a tire-blazing Mark Oswald in round #1. Del Worship qualified #9, a bit better, to 548, and he beat the second youngest driver in the category, Richard Hartman from California, in round #1. So a lot of contrast here and a lot of similarities. The Screamer car near lane. Tom Hoover in the far lane. Hoover was a little late off the mark, but makes up for it. Tom Hoover at 548, 260 miles per hour, defeating Del Worship's 557 at 272 miles per hour. And Don, I think when the replays come up here in just a second, we can see Hoover's car kind of hesitated.
Yeah, I don't think, Steve, that Hoover was as late off the starting line as the reaction time showed. The car actually did a little bobble. I think they had that clutch set real soft so as not to spin the tires out here this morning. And I think that caused Hoover some starting line advantage, but he made it up with power down course.
Well, who's you had to gun the kid down? He was out on you a bit.
That's old age. I tell you what, these guys are cutting 4-second lights. I got to go home and practice. During the week, my son says, Dad, practice the tree.
You can't do that. They make those models. Your link trainer got a tree.
That's right, but we got our clutch set up pretty loose right now. It's making me look bad. I got to find an excuse for something.
Amato says this track right now is like walking on eggs.
It really is marginal out there. Half track, we got everything slowed down. It's real tricky.
Great job.
Thank you.
Real hard to win races when you've got to keep cutting everything back and keeping it soft, because sooner or later, you're going to not dodge a bullet.
That's right, and here's a team that has a hard time taking power out of that car. They've worked too hard to build it. The Hawaiian Punch crew of Roland Leong, Wes Cerny, the crew chief, Jim White, the driver, won the Arizona Nationals this year, Jim White's first ever victory, and they are up against a car you usually don't see this far east. From California, it's Jim Murphy, the car very appropriately called Holy Smokes. He hopes that's something it doesn't do now in that tricky near lane. Jim White was quite a qualifier. The number 2 slot at 5:30 beat Whit Bazemore in round number 1. Now Jim Murphy, who's a contractor from Santa Rosa, California, qualified number 10 at 5:49 and beat Chuck Etchels in round 1. Etchels' crew still unable to get a handle on the clutch management of that car.
Well, Jim White, you know, he's the current national record holder at 5:14, but that's no advantage out here today.
Absolutely, might even be a disadvantage. Roland Leong peeked inside the car, probably looking at the temperature of the engine and the fuel pressure. He walks away seemingly happy. He doesn't show much emotion, never has. Jim Murphy owns his own car, works on his own car. His crew volunteers, still one of those kind of throwback funny car efforts. Whoa, boy, that car just said, hello. A blower explosion lifts the body of Murphy's car. White probably didn't even know it happened. 546, 276 miles per hour. That was a strange one, but not a lot of damage to the body.
It looked to me, Steve, like it might have just hydraulicked as he stepped on it. Might not have had that fuel system just right, because there's a lot of fire under there, and then, of course, it must have kicked the rod out. As we watch the replay, we see just as the cars activate the clutch, up comes Murphy's body. A lot of fire and flame underneath there. Goes right out. No personal injury to the driver. Brock is with Jim Murphy now.
What broke, do you think, Jim?
Well, we blew a supercharger as soon as I hit the throttle. Probably a little bit too much fuel in there and caused quite an explosion.
Everybody's having some problems here with this humidity, I think. Do you think that was a problem with you?
I don't know if that was a problem, but it sure doesn't help us. And we're, being from the West, we're not used to this kind of humidity, so this is a new experience for us.
Yeah, we talked to a couple of the other West Coast guys, and they said they were having problems with it as well.
Yeah, the guys back here probably have a little edge on us.
Well, we're glad you're okay. That's what.
Thank you. No problems at all.
These fuel systems are really tricky, high volume and not very tight clutches. They don't go together real good.
Stay with us. We'll be back with more funny car action from the Goody's Mid-South Nationals. These Mid-South Nationals in the Joe Amato pits, they're trying to find out why that engine doesn't want to run on all 8 cylinders, because they will face off with Laurie Johns. And you may recall Laurie Johns defeated Joe Amato 1 year ago today here in Memphis. In the Laurie Johns pit, her biggest weapon may be her own self-confidence. Larry Meyer and crew have very businesslike resigned their positions with the Laurie Johns operation to pursue, as they say, other opportunities. So there's some faces in this pit we won't see again at the next race. Laurie Johns up against Joe Amato, but first it'll be Ed McCullough versus Al Hoffman as funny car round number 2 continues.
Well, Al Hoffman's been having a pretty good year, but he didn't have a good first round. He only ran a 619 tire smoking. Ed McCullough, well, he did a little better, a 554, but both cars were way off their qualifying pace.
And also earlier in round number 1, Al Hoffman had a lot of control problems and just about crossed the center line. So he hopes he can keep that car between the yellow line and the white wall. And also hoping for the same thing as Al's wife Helen. We could see the exhaust blast there, just about tearing off all that pretty red hair. Australian-born and totally devoted to this team was she. A piece of work when they won the $25,000 at the Winston Invitational just not even a month ago. Out of Umatilla, Florida, is Al Hoffman, originally from New York City, the Florida Drive Service Special. Ed McCullough, Hemet, California, driving for the Larry Minor team and the Otter Pops operation.
The humidity is still hanging heavy in the air, Steve. You can see the water still standing beside the track in the ditches.
Oh, it may not dry out here in Memphis till the year 2000. Body coming up on Hoffman's car. Crew Chief Tom Anderson, I think that was just part of the plan. There doesn't seem to be any problem. He reassures Al, a little pat on the hood. There was a time, a year ago, when a McCullough might have thought, oh, good, I got an easy one in round 2. Hoffman had served notice along with Crew Chief Tom Anderson. There's nothing easy about that white car.
Going to be a good, even race. I wouldn't pick a winner here on a bet.
No, I wouldn't either. Not on this racetrack. Crew chief Bernie Federle for Ed McCullough makes an awful lot of power, and that could be an enemy on this track. As it is for Al Hoffman. Hoffman again smokes the tires, big-time control problems. Ed McCullough goes on to win it with a very conservative 5.52 at 267 miles per hour. So the ace in 2 rounds of competition has not really been challenged. Let's go to Brock Yates at the starting line.
In this kind of humidity and this kind of a situation, this uncertain racetrack, what do you think it's going to take to win this thing?
Well, I think at some point here we're going to have to take a chance and press. You know, someone's going to get down there good, and we're going to probably try and press a little harder next round. You know, we need to get back on 8 cylinders so we can make a little stronger move. Yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you.
It gets real hard to press, though, when you look over in the other lane and the guy you just raced smoked his tires. You're so afraid, because if you smoke, you're out. Our next pair of funnies in round 2 action will be Mike Dunn in the Snickers car, and he'll be facing Jerry Caminito. Caminito's having a very good day today. He smoked John Force in round 1. Quite a surprise to everyone around here. Mike Dunn, on the other hand, his dad, Jim Dunn. I remember racing him in dragsters, for goodness sakes. There's a lot of father-son teams out here. You know, you get that nitro fuel in your blood, and you don't want to hardly stop, and that's a good way to do it. You have your son drive, you crew chief. You can kind of keep up with the parts, keep it safe for you.
You know, for a long time, some have said the ace never gets any breaks. No luck. Well, with Oswald out first round, Force out first round, today is make your own luck day.
You know, we'll take them any way we can get it. It's a long ways from over yet, and this is a, you know, tricky racetrack, and we've got some new guys out here, you know, that don't run these events all the time, and they're coming right on through, and they're running just fine. So we'll take it. I'm glad to see Force out. I mean, he's a good boy.
Oh, sure.
Oswald's my pal, but we need those Winston points.
Well, you just got 200 more of them with a 5.52.
Well, you know, we were hoping maybe it'd step up a little bit better than that. I don't think the 5.52 is going to win this event, but you know, that win counts.
Absolutely. The ace heads for the Final Four.
Well, he's right. Bernie Federle, crew chief, is going to have to step it up. A 5.52 won't win this race.
Well, here's about as good a new team as we have seen. Debuted on the circuit last fall, Ed Abel, a businessman out of Pennsylvania. And what a family he hired to run this car. Mike Dunn at the age of 34, the driver. His father, Big Jim Dunn, the wrench on the car. Now, for Jerry Caminito, Caminito is a true survivor. He and his wife and a few friends run this car, and they make almost all the NHRA national events. He's one of the guys Ed McCullough was kind of talking about. They're maybe not big dollar guys, but they're running just fine on this racetrack. And, well, Caminito beat John Force round number 1. Proof of the pudding right there. Good start. Good race. But the power of Mike Dunn, and boy, will his stock rise. Best elapsed time we have seen in this round. 5.36 at 276. Jerry Caminito's 5.59 really was not in the hunt. So that will set up the pairings for the Final Four in the Nitro Funny Car division. It'll be Mike Dunn up against White. Dunn will have lane choice, 5.36 to a 5.44. Second pair, it'll be Tom Hoover with lane choice over Ed McCullough. And watching Mike Dunn run that 5.36, that should tell old George Hoover maybe he can step that car up just a little bit. The track is capable of handling a better number now.
Meanwhile, in Gary Ormsby's pit, you can tell by the look on their faces, they're a little bit concerned. They have not made a good run at this racetrack so far, and they face Don Prudhomme in the Top Fuel Final Four. So they've got their work cut out for them, and it definitely shows. Meanwhile, Steve is with Mike Dunn at the far end.
Well, Mike, just about anybody in this round would be happy to trade time slips with you. A 5.36 on this track, not bad.
Yeah, it's running real consistent. We ran that 35 first round, and we watched the first round, and my dad decided to back her down a little bit, and it went right down to around a 35, and he left it alone, came back and ran a 36. So we're
straight as an arrow.
Yeah, the car's running real straight, and it's just we got our little soft. We tried a new fuel combination this weekend, and it seems to be working out because it's running as good as we were running before, only it's back down a little bit.
See you soon.
Thanks.
Boy, you see old Mike calling his dad Daddy. You definitely have a nice rapport going on there. Meanwhile, we're getting ready for a Pro Stock round 2 after this.
Well, here in Memphis, as this young lady enjoys a quick snack, here's a quick word about NHRA Now, presented by Castrol GTX. It's a 24-hour drag racing information line with the latest info on your favorite drivers and events. Call 1-900-468-NHRA. You'll be billed by your local phone company. Well, Big, she's far more interested in that popcorn than she is the race cars.
That's true, but I'm interested in this race. This is Bruce Allen, and he's getting ready to face Mark Powick. And Mark Powick has the lane choice. And these pro stocks are concerned about this track. There was one lane that they liked over the other.
That's right, and it's the far lane. This is the first time in a long time, no puns intended, that Mark Powick has been in the driver's seat. Bit of a slump going. I love to have him down at the other end because there is nobody down there that's any more fun, any more enthusiastic about his drag racing. The Powick family, they're just great folks. Their main business in Medina, Ohio is underground storage tank. Mark involved in that company as well as running the Pro Stock team. Bruce Allen, well, he not only drives his car, he works in the shop at Dreyer & Morrison. He's a very talented individual when it comes to engines and drivetrains. He basically sets up the car during the week. Not many of the drivers do that.
These cars are very evenly matched.
Ooh, it's a great race. As they pull him into high gear, there's no edge either way. Oh, Powick asserts himself by a clear car length, his biggest margin of victory in a long time. I already see him jumping up and down inside the car. Be careful, Mark. A 736 defeats a 745. Both of them run 187 miles per hour.
Our next pair of pro stocks will be Jerry Ekman. He'll be faced up against Scott Jeffreyon. Now, Ekman has lane choice in this confrontation. And remember, if Jeffreyon wins and Johnson wins on the other side, they'll be faced against each other. And that will be a very interesting matchup. Meanwhile, Steve is with Mark at the far end.
Well, this is the finest day this pro stock cowboy has enjoyed in a long time, headed for the Final Four, Mark.
Boy, Steve, you know, I was hoping before Columbus, or maybe at least the end of the season, I could get an interview with you. I finally got it.
Well, you only need 2 more. 736 might get them for you.
We're running a lot better. The car's been really working well today, and we've had lane choice. And Bruce, I knew he was going to be ready. I think I was a little late that round, but I'm glad I'm still here.
So are we.
Woo! Thank you. He was a little late. He does need to tune up because these pro stocks run tight.
Back in the staging lane, strapped into his AC Delco Oldsmobile is Warren Johnson, and he'll be a very interested spectator here, hoping that this man, Jerry Ekman, who was one of the finest runners last year from Ventura, California, does not take out his hired gun here. Scott Jeffreyon from Huntington Beach, California, the other Warren Johnson team car. Now, Jeffreyon qualified higher even than Warren Johnson did. What Warren does is when he wants to try something, he tries it first on Jeffreyon's car. If he works, he adds it to his car. So look for Johnson to maybe step up as well.
Look at Ekman. He goes in deep looking for that extra inch.
Boy, you don't see pro stock drivers do that very often. The number 2 qualifier, Jeffreyon, is out. Jerry Ekman has defeated him 743. Oh, goodness. Jeffreyon a 10th quicker at 733. That's a little deceiving because of him being deep staged here. Ekman I'm talking about.
But nonetheless, you can see that Ekman definitely took a starting line advantage over Jeffreyon. And actually, a 10th of a second in pro stock is unbelievable. Jeffreyon will take a real tongue lashing when he gets back to the pits from Warren Johnson to lose a race with that much of an advantage. Let's look at the numbers as we flash them up on the screen. Look at there, a full 10th of a second advantage to Ekman in reaction time. So a 743 beats a 733 in a case like that.
Some kind of driving. Where did that whole shot come from?
Well, I don't know. I was in a little deep. I put the top light out. I went in deeper than I should, so that probably gave the reaction time a little better. But
you don't see pro stocks do that very often.
No, not too much. I didn't do it deliberately. It was a mistake. I mean, I went in deep, and I was holding back a little bit and hoping I wouldn't red light. And Scott was rolling on me hard, but we've been having some tight races lately.
Well, that explains why the ET is 743. It really would probably been in the 30s somewhere.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Probably the reaction was some incredible thing, huh?
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize when you deep stage, you give up some ET because you don't get quite that run at the light.
That's right. Nobody has to tell Billy Glidden that. You won't see his father doing any kind of deep staging. Lane choice is too important to them in those quick ETs. And Warren Johnson, now his team has been halved. Scott Jeffreyon going down to the whole shot by Ekman. So now it's the captain, Warren Johnson, Duluth, Georgia. Oldsmobile loves this guy. He's won a lot of races for him. Up against the man that Ford absolutely adores. He's probably sold more Ford probes than any other single form of advertising. Bob Glidden from Whiteland, Indiana.
Well, this will be my favorite pro stock matchup, Steve. I love to see Johnson and Glidden go at it because there's no holes barred.
The last time the 2 met at the Southern Nationals, Johnson was a big favorite. He red lighted. Not this time. Clean green start. Rusty Glidden urging his dad on. Warren Johnson goes to the Final Four at 7:36. Glidden just way short on performance at 7:50. Look at the speeds. That'll tell you 188 to 170. Glidden wasn't in the ballpark on that one.
Had a real good reaction time on the starting line, but had some kind of a problem down course. Our next pair of pro stocks will be Larry Morgan in the Castrol GTX Oldsmobile, and he'll be faced up against Darrell Alderman in his Dodge. We are on board with the Dodge right now. Meanwhile, let's go down to the far end with Steve.
Well, possibly with the final round at Atlanta still fresh in his mind, Warren Johnson just guns down Bob Glidden.
Well, I'll tell you, we were lucky to get by that round. We shook on every gear change, and Bob just dropped back at the finish line. I don't know if he broke something or what happened.
What is the sensation of that shake you're talking about?
Well, it actually physically blurs your vision, and you're just drive out of your seat of your pants at that point, and I hope you don't make any contact with anything hard.
You certainly didn't make any mistakes. Good job.
Thank you.
And you also hope that it quits shaking real quick.
And as you said in your open, Don, this is the most feared car in all of pro stock racing. Last season, Darrell Alderman won the Winston Championship with a late season move. This year, he won the first 3 races of the season and has won 3 out of the 5 runs. Larry Morgan of Newark, Ohio, a 2-time U.S. Nationals winner, carries a lot of big horsepower under the Castrol GTX skin on that Oldsmobile.
Larry Morgan, the defending champion here, hopes to get an advantage on the starting line. He doesn't have the power of the Dodge, but he's got very good reaction time, so he'll hope to make up a lot right on the line.
And Darrell Alderman, knowing he has that power, has been fairly conservative on the tree, and is again. Even though Morgan was first off the mark, Alderman first to the finish line stripe at 7:32 to a losing 7:41, 188 to a 186 for Morgan. So the pairings for the Pro Stock Final Four will look exactly like this. It'll be Darrell Alderman up against Mark Powick. Alderman will have the lane choice. Powick will be gunning him on the lights, as everybody is. In the second half of the Final Four, Warren Johnson versus Jerry Ekman. Johnson has lane choice, 7:36 versus Ekman, 7:43. Stay with us for more action. In fact, Top Fuel is up next here at the Goodies Mid-South Nationals. In the Ed McCullough Funny Car pits here at the NHRA Goodies Mid-South Nationals, there's a lot of thrashing, bashing, and stinking going on. They've got to get that car out of the 550s into the 40s or even the 30s if they're to handle the competition, especially Tom Hoover, who comes up next opposite the Ace. But right now, it is time. You can hear the thunder in the background on the starting line. Don Prudhomme versus Gary Ormsby, the first half of the Final Four. How do you like this one, Don Garlitz?
Well, I'll tell you, I like it just fine, but I bet Lee Beard doesn't like it because they have not made a good run yet today, and they're facing a man that can run 5.0s on a tricky racetrack. And they've only mustered a 5.52 so far today, so that is definitely a problem.
I would rate the drivers dead even. Last year, I said Ormsby was the better off the starting line, but Prudhomme, not only is his crew chief John Medlin set the car up right for him where it reacts to his touch, but he is just razor sharp. You don't wait till you see the green light. If you do that, you're late. You leave it up. Just a hint of that yellow. Ooh, good drag race. Prudhomme. Don Prudhomme to the finals, his third of the year, another hole shot. Prudhomme's 5.11 defeats Ormsby's 5.10. 283 for the Snake, 284, a little bit faster for Ormsby. Let's go to Brock.
5.11.
It looks like our driver's winning the rounds for us this weekend. We're having a hard time getting down this track. It's so loose. We're doing the best we can, but the Snake come through this time. He won the round for us.
Great show.
Thank you.
Don is doing a great job today. As we see by this replay, he takes a definite starting line advantage. Not a big one, but, you know, as close as these two cars are matched, any advantage at all is important. And Don got that advantage, and that put him into the finals, and that'll be the third time this year for the Snake.
Tell you what, as hard as the Catholic sisters from Madonna are running the beads, there may be a higher authority driving this car. Another hole shot victory. Your 11 beat Gary's 10.
Well, that's good because we've been struggling, you know, in years past with that reaction time. Things are getting better these days, and that's good.
Would you try to step it up a bit? It's getting cooler. The track may be a little better.
Yeah, we're going to really have to, Steve. You know, we thought it would run a little bit quicker, but John Mellon's making, you know, he's making the calls back there in the pits right now, and maybe the air's just getting us a little bit.
Who would you rather race in the final, Joe Amato or Laurie Johns?
Neither one. I like to single.
They're good down here today, huh?
Well, now there's an honest reaction if I ever heard one, because I'll tell you, I never minded a single myself once in a while.
I thought he'd stand there and ponder it and, you know, make something out of it. No, he's greedy. He wants it all. Give me a bye. Woo.
Boy, from this new camera angle high on Amato's wing, I see some smoke coming out of those back breathers. It seems as though there's something could be wrong with Amato's engine.
There we saw Tim Richards, crew chief, conferring with starter Buster Couch. Buster walks away apparently satisfied. He nods to Amato that it's okay. Believe me, Tim Richards not only is an Amato employee, Amato's his best pal. There's no way he's going to send him down that racetrack.
More of that smoke coming back there, Steve.
But it's from kind of the back of them. It's hard to say with the wind swirling it around and all of the force of the exhaust headers. But it's bad timing for Amato. Laurie Johns beat him in the final round at this very race a year ago, and the race preceding this. He really feels that he owes her one. There again, the smoke, and it's getting worse, not better. Whoa, a blowtorch out of the back of the Amato engine. You saw it perfectly with the wing camera, and you saw Laurie Johns just streak away, becoming a tiny little dot. And what a time for Laurie Johns, best of the day, 5:04, 274 miles per hour, as Joe Amato coasts down the right-hand lane silently.
What a disappointment for Joe Amato, but he would have had to run good. 5:04 beats 5:05 on an even start. Amato took a starting line advantage and would have done well had he had an engine, but he had mechanical problems, and Laurie John was able to get by. There you see him smoking the tires, and then we see what caused it. He blew a head gasket, oil came out, got on the tires, it smoked them immediately. The engine was destroyed. We see Laurie John's streak into the final round for the second year in a row. She'll be faced up against Don Perdome, and Johns will have lane choice with a 5:04 to Perdome's 5:11. Meanwhile, Steve is with Joe Amato at the far end.
Well, Joey, our viewers at home got a small taste of what it's like to drive one of these fiery creations. The onboard camera caught some of that flame.
Yeah, that's real exciting with the camera up on the back wing, you know. They got to say, I guess, was the flame come out the back when we went down the track?
Oh, absolutely. It looked like maybe it pushed the head gasket out even before you left. Is that correct?
Timmy said it probably did it on the burnout, you know. These cars have so much nitro in them, and you're really trying to compress everything, and that's the way racing goes, you know.
Absolutely.
We've been running real steady all day, but it's a sin to have to not get a shot to go out and race, but that's the way. That's the breaks of the game. Team Valvoline will be back.
And you made some points in the process.
I mean, we got lucky when Bernstein smoked the tires, you know, so we picked up a couple points, but it's a long way between now and the end of the year.
Pick a winner for me in the final, Perdome or Laurie Johns?
Well, I think Perdome got the sisters from the Medina Day School on his side, and that's a tough thing to be when you got God and his sisters on your side. You know, I'll take that any day over anything else.
Thanks, Joe.
Boy, he's right about that, but I'll tell you, you never know about drag racing. It can go any way. We'll be back after this.
We're back at the NHRA Goodies Mid-South Nationals, presented by TNN, and there's a man with a lot on his mind. Bernie Federley, crew chief for Ed McCullough, wondering right now, should I have given a little more nitro? Maybe should up the blower. Maybe should have advanced the magnetos. All hoping they get some kind of a combination that will handle that man, Tom Hoover. Let me first take just a moment to invite you to become a member of a very special organization, the National Hot Rod Association. For $45 per year, you get 48 issues of National Dragster, a patch, pin, rule book, and more. And if you order by calling the number on your screen, you'll get a free copy of Diamond P's home video, Drag Racing 90. So why don't you make that call? Do it right now. Maybe you want to wait until after we see Tom Hoover race Ed McCullough. These are two old friends. Off track, they're just have a very special relationships. On track, it's war, Big Daddy.
Well, it is war, and you can bet that Ed McCullough's got a lot on his mind, because sometimes they step these cars up, and they don't step them up, they slow them down.
Great start. Terrific race. Oh, Tom Hoover at the far end. A ton of smoke, however, out of that motor. I hope the time slip at 5:48 cheers him up a bit, because he just spent a few bucks to get it. Only 256 miles an hour. That tells you the car was slowing at the other end. Brock?
Congratulations, George. Great show.
Yeah, thank you.
What do you think? 5:48?
Well, it's like this, you know. Down by the drag strip early in the morning, see the little funny cars all in a row. See Mr. Bustercott press a little button, and the way they go.
Old man Hoover won't be singing when they get that car over to the pits and take that motor apart.
Now, he's coming out with an album of that stuff, by the way. Can't hardly wait. All right, this could be, as all the earmarks of being one of the best races of the day in any category. The two quickest funny cars, Mike Dunn, Jim White.
Both of them capable of low 530s. Both of them have a handle on this track. Both of them are having a good day. So this is anybody's race. It's definitely going to be a race of starting line reaction. Meanwhile, Steve.
Well, Tom, you stay very consistently in the 540s, but the safeties have already visited you here. What was going on?
I think we heard an exhaust valve that run. They said a little flash down towards the big end. I don't think it's a big problem. We'll correct it and be ready to go.
Would not entail an engine change, you don't think?
No, I think this exhaust valve's got a little burn hole. They do that once in a while, so we'll be okay.
Been a while since you've been in the final. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. I hope for Pontiac and Scotch color film print we can do well here.
And let's hope you get lane choice. Let's go back to the starting line.
All that smoke that we were looking at, I don't think came through a little hole in the exhaust valve. Of course, the driver's always the last one to know about stuff like that.
That's right. He doesn't see very much at all. All right, Mike Dunn over in the far lane. The Ed Abel-owned Circle A racing car sponsored by Snickers. The roof hatch latched down. That's the only air conditioning, really the only way to get a little cool air into the cockpit. It's required by NHRA in case of a fire or a driver having to make a quick exit. He's up against Jim White, winner at Phoenix, Arizona. These would have to rate in the top half dozen funny cars on the earth today. Mike Dunn and Jim White.
The winner of this race could well be the winner of the whole race.
And we'll face Tom Hoover, whoever it is. It's going to be Mike Dunn. Something goes wrong, probably in the drivetrain of the Hawaiian Punch car. Mike Dunn, 5:30, 275, best elapsed time of the day. Brock?
Well, Jim, lane choice, finals, not bad.
Not bad. We're happy as heck, you know.
Go get him.
Big Jim Dunn. Just can't shut him up once you get him going. But he'd like what you're seeing on your screen. It'll be Tom Hoover versus his son, Mike Dunn, in the funny car final. And Dunn has the lane choice with that brilliant 5:33.
Meanwhile, in Laurie John's pit, Larry Meyer prepares a car for the Top Fuel final against Don Perdome, coming up a little bit later.
On a muggy day at Memphis Motorsports Park, we are back for the Final Four in Pro Stock of the NHRA Goodies Mid-South Nationals. And Big Daddy Don Garlich's the man in that yellow car, Jerry Ekman. He has a monster of a mountain to climb here as he faces Warren Johnson.
Well, Johnson is running good, but I worry about Johnson because that Atlanta race has caused him to be what I call late in Pro Stock almost every round. He's very sensitive about that red light.
That's right. But, you know, when you're mired in the 740s, as Ekman is, your competition is consistently in the mid to low 730s. You can't just say, well, I'll adjust this carburetor. You've got to make a dramatic change, a gear ratio, a different engine. You've got to try something.
I don't know what seems to be the problem with Ekman. He runs good speeds, but the car is not performing through the middle of the racetrack.
Well, a guess might be they've got the clutch fairly loose to try to avoid that shake that Warren Johnson talked about. Bill Orndorff, the car owner, looking on, and you know he's looking at those rear tires, hoping he doesn't see them chatter or shake.
Well, you're definitely right about that. You can soften the clutch and take shake out, but you lose ET, and we know that Warren Johnson is shaking because he told us so.
That's right. Oh, great start. Ekman out by a little, but not much. Here comes WJ. Got him. Warren Johnson goes to the final round, 7:34 to Jerry Ekman, 7:43. Both of them run 188 miles per hour, but you're absolutely right. Ekman loses that elapsed time in the first 300 feet.
He sure does. He is mired in the 740s. Johnson gives him a little bit at the starting line, but makes it up real quick. Obviously getting a little bit of a shake, but the car is moving ahead, and that's what counts. He's got to keep that thing charging all the way down course. And Ekman's car falls off in the middle and allows Johnson the win.
Warren Johnson headed for the final round. Those are sweet words, huh?
Oh, you bet. I mean, that's just one more notch to go. I mean, it's been tough. That was probably the cleanest run we made all day. I don't know what it ran, but
well, I can tell you 7:34.
Well, it's not all that good, but at least it's good enough to get into the final.
Who would you rather race in the final?
Anybody I can beat.
Anybody he can beat. I know what he means. Well, it might be this man, Mark Powick, or it might be Darrell Alderman. Alderman comes into this round with a definite performance advantage, but Powick has been running well. Here we're on board with Darrell Alderman.
And just to his right, you can see that maze of levers
and that's the 4-speed transmission. There are really 3 independent transmissions all bolted together. You got a different lever for each one of them, plus a lever for the reverser. That's all. It looks like spaghetti hanging straight up in the air. Mark Pollock, the finest day he's had in about a year of NHRA Winston Championship drag racing. But let's ride with the champ. Whoa, Alderman having to steer that car and shift at the same time. You saw him reach for the parachute there, but it was enough to get the enough. 7:29.
Pollock runs a 7:36, 188, but it wasn't enough to cover him. So that sets up the pairings for the final. It'll be Johnson versus Alderman. Alderman has the lane choice with that stunning 7:29.
You race Warren Johnson. How do you feel about racing Warren Johnson?
Well, he's been awful tough here in the last few races.
Whipped you.
He certainly has. We just hope we can turn it around this next round.
Turn it around? Better than a 29?
Well, I'm talking about the winner.
Oh, okay. All right. Warren Johnson said he wanted to race whoever he can beat. I'm not sure he can beat him.
Well, Alderman hasn't forgotten that loss to Johnson at the Gator Nationals, and he's beaten him in the round several other times, so he's becoming a thorn in Alderman's side. Meanwhile, back in Mike Dunn's pit area, they're getting ready to face Tom Hoover in the funny car final. All finals coming up after this. Welcome back to Memphis and the Goodies Mid-South Nationals. We're in Don Perdone's pit, and everything seems to be going normal, preparing the car for the Top Fuel final against a very tough Laurie Johns. But over in Tom Hoover's pit, it's not that easy. Steve is there.
You're looking at some bad news for Tom Hoover. The crankshaft in this motor is black. That means the bearings at some time or another lost oil pressure. That's an instant engine change. It's a dangerous motor to try to run. They already have a fresh engine in the frame rails of this funny car, thanks to a lot of help from other crews. Tom Hoover, one of the most popular drivers in all of drag racing. There isn't anything anybody on these other teams won't do for Hoover, including loan him anything he might need.
Plus, on a final like this, there's a lot of parts and a lot of people available. There's Paul Smith shouting at old man Hoover, wanting instructions. What does he want him to do to the car?
Yeah, they're not about to do anything without some supervision there. They don't want to be blamed for a problem. All right, here we go. No problem here for Darrell Alderman, Warren Johnson. They have made the final round in the tough pro stock category. And even though Alderman ran that 7:29, anything could happen here, Don. I'm a betting man, but I wouldn't participate here.
No, because, you know, things do go wrong from round to round. Drivers lose their concentration. We're talking about split-second decisions, and anything can happen. That's what I like about drag racing. You don't really have sure winners.
And it's brutal on the emotions because there's no second chance. You can't get a lap back. You can in short track stock car racing. You're riding with Darrell Alderman, the Winston champ, trying to make it 4 wins this year. Whoa, and he is all over the place. He maintains control, but by the time he gathers it up, Warren Johnson has the lead. Warren Johnson wins at 7:34 to a 7:43, 188 for Johnson, and that Dodge, even though he had to get off the throttle, still runs 185 miles per hour.
Just goes to show you how much power that thing's got. Alderman took a very decisive starting line advantage, and it looked like he had the race in the bag, but he gets over toward the center line, almost hits the cone, has to backpedal the car, and that's all Johnson needed. Alderman got back on the gas, but it wasn't enough to catch him. So Warren Johnson wins the race, gets some very important Winston points for the win, and proves that there is a car out there that is capable of beating that Dodge.
Darrell, you were all over the racetrack. He got there first.
Yeah, he's got my number, Steve.
He said he was going to try to turn this around after Gainesville, but maybe you do have his number.
Well, I don't know how I got his number. That's just a sign of a good competitor. We're out there beat each other, and Darrell and I are good friends, and we're better than that. We're good competitors, I think, and that's really the bottom line.
Well, I agree with that. A parting 7:34.
Well, if we're consistent, but not consistently fast enough.
Darrell, what got it all over the racetrack?
I really don't know. When I went in second, it moved to the center with me, and I tried to drive it on through, but, you know, that's racing.
Great show, you guys. Congratulations, Warren Johnson.
Tremendous driving job on Darrell Alderman's part. We saw it. Most drivers would have had to got completely out of it. Here comes Laurie John. She's getting ready for the Goodies Mid-South Nationals final.
There are some very special children that all of us who've attended this race in Memphis the past 2 years have come to know and love, the kids in the Madonna Day School Center. And I guarantee you who they're cheering for, Big Daddy, the Snake.
None other than the Snake. I mean, this has been, it was one of his little secret projects for a long time, but finally it got out.
Oh boy, and when it got out, everybody has pitched in to make it even bigger and better, but he's the lead guy when it comes to benefiting the Madonna Day School, and they're all here cheering him on. And even though Lori Johns is brimming over with confidence, she might have some mixed emotions. She, too, a big supporter of the Madonna kids. Earlier, we talked to Sister Ruth Ann Schmidt about what the Snake means to the youngsters.
First of all, he is their very, very best friend. That's right. He's a very special friend to all of us. That's for sure. Okay? And we appreciate him so much because of his caring ways of caring about Madonna Day School, but also we think he's a fantastic race car driver.
Well, the only order of hot rod nuns can be found right here in Memphis, Tennessee.
Amen to that, Steve.
Well, I tell you, they're into the racing as much as they are the relationship with Don Prudhomme. And here it is, the top fuel final at the Goody's Mid-South Nationals. Near lane, Don Prudhomme. He did not have lane choice. That's where Lori Johns put him. Lori Johns, the far lane where she's comfortable. The kids looking on. This is an emotion-packed final. All the ingredients you could want. Lori Johns, deep stages, she always does. But it's Prudhomme away first. The Snake in front, and the blower belt comes off. What a disaster for Don Prudhomme. The kids are a bit disappointed. One, they're rooting for Lori Johns, though. He's plenty happy. She runs a 5:07, and there's a happy crew. Larry Meyer going out in a blaze of glory. Don Prudhomme silently coasting down the shutdown area. Let's go to Brock Yates.
Larry, quick word. How about that?
I'll talk to you all day long now. I don't care.
Great show. Great show. You worked all day and kept squeezing a little bit more ET out of it every time.
I'll tell you what happened. When you hear that starter bang when he started it, pulled the idler pulley loose, and the belt was about that far off the pulley. I didn't think it was going to make it, but it did.
Right.
God, I just...
Boy, great show. Congratulations.
Thank you all.
Well, they sure got lucky on that one, because usually when they bang when they start, that's the end of them. And then the belt problems we've been having today, maybe it was better that the belt was a little bit loose, but the Snake was definitely ready for Lori Johns. Look at that starting line advantage that he gets. If that car had kept going, there's no way she could have caught him, because that even a 5:04 wouldn't have beat the lead that the Snake had. But about halfway down course, you see it. Smoke comes out of the engine, and it's all over. Lori Johns just sails on to victory.
Lori Johns makes it back-to-back wins at the Mid-South Nationals. Great job, kid, and I think your confidence had a lot to do with it today.
My confidence had everything to do with it. I felt great coming into the race. I'm just as happy as I could be, and I really knew that we were going to win this one. I'm a little disappointed that I let him get to me on the starting line, because he did, and I was ready to go, and I thought that he had staged, and I realized I looked up and he hadn't, and I was ready to go, staring at the light for a long time. And then he went in, and I shook me up.
You learn something every time you go to the starting line not to do again.
That's very true, and I watched the tree before I watched the staging process, and it got me messed up, but it doesn't matter because it came out well and we won the event.
In the end of, let's be honest, a bit of a slump.
Oh, my gosh, yes, it's been a slump for quite some time, but, you know, this is great. It's a great way to come out of it, and I hope that it means continued success for the rest of the year. And I want to say that I kind of had mixed feelings about winning the event, because I know Don Prudhomme wanted to win for the Madonna Day School, and I went and helped him with that, and he invited me to come this year to the school, and it's a wonderful thing, and I hope we were able to help them out.
You'll understand, believe me.
Thanks.
Lori Johns, congratulations to her, departing crew chief Larry Meyer, the whole family.
Well, I sure know how Don Prudhomme must feel. He had the car running good, and Madonna Day School, all of the children here, and what a dejected feeling. I've been there plenty of times, I know.
Well, here's a couple of guys that are still mighty pumped up. We're talking about Tom Hoover, the Showtime car, and Mike Dunn in the Snickers automobile performing their burnouts. You gotta like Dunn a bit in this one. You know, the other two finals were a pick-em deal. I like Dunn a lot here.
Well, I think Dunn is definitely the favorite. He comes in here with a lot of performance advantage. Hoover has put a new motor in, but you never know. Sometimes they put those new motors in, and the clutch is just perfect on them. But it's kind of a long shot. I think that Jim Dunn has tuned up Mike's car, and I would just have to, you know, just from experience, pick him. But, you know, this is drag racing.
Well, we saw Darrell Alderman. He appeared to have Warren Johnson beat. The car got loose, almost crossed the center line, and he lost. We saw Don Prudhomme there, a starting line advantage. It appeared that they had finally found the performance they wanted with that car, and a $90 blower belt slips off. Earlier, I had a chance, though, to visit with the owner of Mike Dunn's car. An interesting guy, hard at work. When Pennsylvania businessman Ed Abel put together one of the finest funny car teams we have ever seen and hired Mike and Jim Dunn, he didn't see himself as anything but a team leader, team manager. He didn't see himself as a mechanic. But when you're one guy short, everybody pitches in. Ed, Mike said this would be good therapy for you.
It wasn't supposed to be like this, Steve. It was supposed to all be fun and glory, but it didn't work out that way. So
these cylinder heads are heavy. I saw you winching one up. You're going to need a chiropractor.
I'm not used to this.
You're loving it.
All the way, yeah.
Okay, good luck to you, Ed.
I know he does, because I actually like working on my car more than I like driving the thing.
All right, well, here is Tom Hoover. You know the story there. 85-year-old George, with the help of a lot of other people in the pit, have pieced together a motor in this car. They barely made it in the staging lanes. That's why the funny car final is after top fuel. It's usually the reverse of that in NHRA Winston competition. But Hoover needed a little extra time, and he got it. Three-stage, the final race of the Mid-South Nationals is at hand. Hoover running with Dunn. Hoover is there. But Dunn is just too strong. Mike Dunn has won funny car here in Memphis with an elapsed time of 5:30 to Hoover's 5:71. I think the Hoov saw it was all over and decided to save what equipment he still had left, Don.
Well, he definitely did. The 215-mile-an-hour speed for Hoover tells me that he shut off quite a bit early. It was a very, very close start, with Hoover taking just the ever so slightest starting line advantage. But you see, he was kind of smoking the tires just a little bit. And of course, that's caused him to fall behind, whereas Dunn was making a picture-perfect run, almost identical to his run previously.
Well, Michael, you saved the best for last. 5:30 low elapsed time of the day.
Great. My dad did a good job. I can't say enough about my father. You know, the rest of the crew at Abel, we had him working on the right side of the motor today, and he did a heck of a job. And Walt Sloat, Steve Fry, Sandy McLean, what can I say? My wife, Sandy. I want to say hi to my daughter, Samantha. I got to buy you a Paperboy by Nintendo now. We won the race. So I also want to thank all our sponsors, you know, Snickers, Mopar, Mac Tools. They've stuck with us, and they believe in this program for being a new program, and we're just glad to have them on board.
You never went to the starting line today thinking you couldn't win. You had that kind of confidence in this automobile and your dad.
Well, yeah, we definitely did. We knew we could run 5:30s. My dad's probably as good as anybody run all them match race tracks at getting down a marginal track. And I think with this combination now, it's got more in it to where we can step up on the good tracks and give them a good race there, and should keep us in the points.
You're a player for the championship?
I hope so. We'll be there.
Thank you, Mike. Well, our congratulations, obviously, to Mike Dunn and our other champions here today. Laurie Johnson, Top Fuel, Warren Johnson in Pro Stock. From the end of Memphis Motorsports Park, for Big Daddy Don Garlitz and Brock Yates, I'm Steve Evans. Thanks for joining us.
The executive producer for American Sports Cavalcade is Harvey M. Palish. Produced and directed by John B. Mullen. Promotional consideration provided for and a fee paid by this special offer from Diamond P.
They take it to the limit and beyond. They force body and machine to the extremes of endurance. Often unpredictable, always spectacular. That's the reason Diamond P Sports has once again opened its action-packed archives to produce a dramatic new video entitled And They Walked Away Too. The blazing inferno of high-performance gone awry. Open-wheel sprint cars locked in death-defying ballets. The heart-stopping drama of unbelievable two-wheel disasters. Awesome displays of man and metal turned to mayhem. To get your copy of And They Walked Away Too, send $24.95 plus $4 shipping and handling to the address on your screen. Or better yet, call 1-800-767-9700. Visa and MasterCard accepted, no CODs. That's 1-800-767-9700. Call today.
All right, here you go, guys.
The American Sports Cavalcade is a presentation of Diamond P Sports.